All right. Today, I'm going to talk about managing something which is hidden in poultry operation. Drinker line. We are going to manage water inside the drinker line, which is hidden. We can't see the inside of drinker line, what's going on out there. It is a dark place. It's a good place for pathogens to grow, for biofilm to grow, for mineral build-up scales, and all of them are going to reduce our birds' performance. They are going to impair feed conversion ratio, feed efficiency. They are going to decrease our profit. They are going to create health challenges for our birds. They are going to be involved in poultry disease outbreak. That's why it's really important to know how to manage this hidden system. Most of the time, I'm getting feedback or let's say questions from my audience, either, from YouTube or other social media. They are asking, how can we reach the maximum body weight gain, lowest possible feed conversion ratio, the best efficiency in the shortest time? Do you have any feed formula that can, have a secret and that can increase my performance? But nobody is asking about water, about something that its consumption is closely related to feed consumption. Of course, 70 to 75% of rearing cost is for feed cost. Maybe that's why people, pay more attention to that part. But because water is free, or let's say it's really cheap, that's why sometimes we underestimate its value. But be careful, because the water consumption is closely correlated with feed consumption. Most of the times, you are managing feed consumption in your barn. You are monitoring feed consumption because you are going to calculate feed conversion ratio. You want to see how much your birds have eaten and how much they have produced meat. They have gained body weight. That's why you are measuring feed intake. But what about water intake? Are you monitoring water intake as well? In fact, our poultry barns should be equipped to some tools and devices to measure water intake in real time and collect those data. And if there is a problem in water intake, let's say less water intake or high water waste, then that system should send your mobile devices an alarm to say, hey, something is going wrong tonight at your barn. Come and visit what's going on. Maybe there is leakage in water system. You need to be aware of that. That's why water intake went up. In fact, it's not water intake, it's water waste through that leakage. And it's going to create so many problems like footpath problem, wet litter, and many, many health challenges. Or vice versa. Maybe your water intake goes down, and it's a preliminary sign for diseases. For most of the diseases, feed intake goes down. But before feed intake goes down, actually water intake goes down. And we really need to understand that and see what's going on. That's why we need to make checking water system a culture in our poultry operation. What do I mean by saying make it a culture? I'm gonna tell you an example. Let's say we are brushing our teeth, but we are not thinking about that. Let's say if my habit is to brush my teeth 2 times a day, in the morning and before bedtime. So in those times, actually, without thinking, no matter where I am, I'm traveling or whatever, I know it's the time for brush my teeth because it's a culture. It means that this habit has turned to a culture in my life. When we are saying make the water sanitation and the water system maintenance a culture at your barn, it means that if you are a producer, you need to train your staff to check the water system in every visit that they have during the day. If they are visiting the barn for any reason, for monitoring the birds, monitoring the feed intake, monitoring feed pans, whatever, they need to double check the water system every time. They need to double check drinkers, they need to double check medicator buckets, regulators, and standpipes, nipple drinkers, water tanks, every single thing that is related to water. Because at the end of the day, it will make our profit. And that's why through these videos that I'm going to publish soon, I'm going to talk about the importance of water cleaning, and also I'm going to talk about some protocols for water cleaning, biofilm cleaning, different protocols for shock chlorination of well, for water system maintenance, observational tests, lab tests, on-farm tests, and we're gonna actually learn so many things about water. So let's get started. For my first presentation, I have called it Water Mystery in Poultry Production because we are dealing with something which is hidden, as I said, and we're gonna manage something that its measurement is critical. We can manage something that we can measure it. And we need to keep this in mind. So we need to measure different aspects of water quality, water quantity in our barns. Why should you care about water in poultry production? Because your growth performance, efficiency, livability, overall performance, all of them are dependent to water quality and quantity. Disease outbreak, profitability, all of our poultry operation actually depends on First, water, second, feed and biosecurity, and the rest of the FLAWS acronym that I have talked about FLAWS acronym in my previous presentations. If you remember a real life story from a poultry farm, I was talking about cleaning a water tank which was full of Pseudomonas. They cleaned it out because they were observing poorer performance from flock to flock, and they figured it out it's related to the water system. And after cleaning that water tank, they saw improvement in feed efficiency, improvement in final weight, and increase in return per bird from $2.25 to $3.37. And in that video, I talked, it was about a 10,000 bird flock. And if you do the math, it turns out to $11,000 profit, increase in profit. And how much they spend? Just $500 to cleaning the water tank. So that's why profit is important, and it's related to water quality and quantity. But not only profit, but also some disease outbreak. Water system can harbor pathogens like Pseudomonas, E. coli, Klebsiella, avian influenza virus, and many, many other germs. In 2015, when the avian influenza hit the poultry industry in US, they saw water was contaminated with avian influenza virus. Although they were considering all other biosecurity rules, but because they ignored water, it was the place that virus came into the barn and hit those farms. So that's why, especially during the disease outbreak, we really need to have daily water sanitation in our barns. How pathogens sneak into a water system? If we know those locations that the enemy, which is pathogens, can attack our birds through water, we can prevent them, right? So that's why we are going to review those locations. Remember, if you are using a city water, reverse osmosis, again, there is no guarantee that your water is gonna be pathogen-free. Different kinds of pathogens can get introduced to your water system through different locations. For example, if you have flooding around your farm, it can contaminate your water system. Just because so far you have not had any problem with water, it doesn't mean that your water is clean forever. No, it can be contaminated over a night. So that's why we need to pay attention to any environmental conditions. If there is heavy rain, if there is flooding, if there is drought, we need to be suspicious to the water contamination, and we need to test the water. So that's why I will talk about testing the water, and I will introduce some tools that you can purchase. septic system failures, or contamination during water system repairs. It's really important. Maybe your barn, your water system had a problem, you fixed it, but during the repair, some germs got introduced to your water system. That's why after any repair, you need to make sure that water is clean and you have the right cleaning protocols in place. Septic system, is a system that is used to clean the wastewater, but of course, if it has failure or any problem, it can contaminate your drinking water as well. During droughts or heavy water usage, the concentration of natural contaminants can go up, and by that, it can promote pathogen growth. That's why we need to check the water quality regularly on our farm. What else? Medicator buckets that aren't kept clean and covered. You can see a medicator bucket in this picture, right? And it has lid and it's clean. But sometimes in some farms, we can see some medicator buckets that is not covered. And sometimes, you can see some dead creatures over there, like dead fly, dead mice. So it can contaminate your poultry drinking water very easily. That's why we need to keep the medicator bucket and every water system clean. Those germs can come from the water source or well. If you are using well, maybe there is a damage to wellhead. So from that place, bacteria and different germs can get introduced to your water. If you are using groundwater, dugout, river, you need to be more careful, because every contamination on that water can get introduced to your water system easily. Storage tanks. Sometimes there is sediment, on the bottom of a storage tank. And we really need to pay attention to that. And there are some devices, you can use to evaluate the amount of sedimentation on the bottom of the storage tank. And if there is a problem, you need to clean it out. I will talk more specifically about that in water system maintenance video, which will be my next video. Underground lines, especially if you see cracked lines under the driveway, it's the place that different, germs can get introduced to your barn. What else? Entrance room. From the equipment that you have in entrance room, if you don't follow the biosecurity rules, your water can get contaminated. Regulators. You can see what's going on inside the regulator here in this picture. Biofilm buildup, scale buildup, and it's in a hidden place. If between the flocks you are not going to clean your water system thoroughly, you're going to have these problems. water line in barn, drinker line, especially as I showed you, these nipple drinkers can get contaminated very easily. Dust from your barn can sit on the nipple drinkers, and when the bird's pecking on the drinker, on the nipple, those germs from the dust can get introduced to your water system. And then we will see many, many health challenges. Ventilation system, which is really important. Your ventilation system can affect your water health as well, your water cleaning as well. Ventilation, it has its own science, and we really need to pay attention to that. If we are not ventilating the poultry house in a right manner, it's gonna create problem for our drinker lines as well. Because most of the times, the germs, for example, some viruses, they cannot travel through the air. They need to attach to dust and then travel through the air, and then they can survive. That's why we really need to get rid of dust inside the poultry house. Otherwise, it's gonna create problem. Airborne from disturbed litter. Other living creatures in the environment, fly, mice, deposited by the birds and left from previous flock. That's why cleaning between the flocks is really crucial. Where do we start from? So far, we understood the locations that we need to double check frequently. We understood the importance of water, which is equal to feed, or maybe more important than feed. But where should I start from? First, water system maintenance. It means that before going to, study about water cleaning, water sanitation, we need to make sure that our water system maintenance is in a good condition. And in my next video, I'll talk about those criteria that you need to take into consideration. Second, we need to test our water. But before sending it out to a lab, we need to test it at the farm. Observational tests, like looking at the taste, appearance of water, color, and other criteria, other water attributes that I will talk about that. Then we need to have some on-farm tests using some really cheap and available tools. Then we need to monitor and control biofilm, because I would say in 100% of the barns, we will see biofilm problem. We need to monitor it and control it. And at the end of the day, we need to send out our water samples to general labs, water labs or diagnostic labs, to look at water minerals, water microbes, and biofilm, to find the right disinfectant to treat our water. And in my next videos, I'm going to start from these items and continue our discussion. As always, if you have any question, if you have any insight, feedback, please feel free to share with me through the comments area down there. And I'll see you in the next episode. Take care.